When it comes down to it, Dungeons & Dragons is a game all about and dedicated to the choices we make and how they impact the game. As such, these choices can prove to be really difficult when we have to actually sit down and make them. What if we make the wrong choice? Well, it just so happens there are actually a lot of choices that work ubiquitously across all character types and classes in the game. And today we're going to focus on the feats that fill that particular niche where you just can't go wrong no matter what build you are working towards. I'm Tabletop Tinkerer. Let's break it down. Before we dive into the various feats that you can pick for your character that will work regardless of the build that you are working towards, I just want to give a quick reminder. If you could go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you watch to the end and you like the content, it would really help me out and let me know that I'm doing a good job. So let's get into it. Our first selection is going to be the Fey Touched feat. Fey Touched is a feat that can be taken by any character that will give you a bonus to one of your more social skills, being intelligence, charisma. What's the third one? Wisdom. One of those three. It will increase the stat by one, so it is a half stat increase bonus, or a half feat, depending on how you want to look at it. It will also give you access to the Misty Step spell and one other spell of first level from the enchantment or divination spell list. I have this at 6th because the combination that I go to this for constantly, that will work for any build, really depends on what your dungeon master will allow or won't allow. And it comes down to that first spell pick. But first of all, anybody can benefit from that ASI increase. Those are important stats for any character, especially when it comes to saving throws. But Misty Step is even by itself, that could almost be worth a feat pickup because a instant get out of jail free card, which is what Misty Step is, I've seen it used that way many times, it's how I use it myself, is just worth it. Feats may not be free, but Misty Step in and of itself is worth the price of admission. But when we go to the spell list offered by the feature from the enchantment and divination, I turn to divination. And the spell that I like to pick up is Gift of Alacrity. This is why it's the last on the list, or first rather on the list, for me to bring to you, because your Dungeon Master may not allow you to use Gift of Alacrity as it's a time spell. While I think most tables will allow for it, not every table necessarily will. In fact, there may be a good chunk that will not. But what makes Gift of Alacrity so special and useful for this feature is the fact that it lasts for essentially the whole day. What it does is it gives you a bonus to your initiative equal to a D8 for the entire day. The spell given to you by the Fey Touched feature, you only get one use of it. So something that gives you a long duration of it that is very impactful and is very useful makes for a very good selection when choosing a feat. And being able to teleport and get higher initiative as well as a bonus to a very important stat are things that every single character can enjoy. The second feature that I would like to talk to you about is not too dissimilar from Fey Touched in the fact that it's going to depend on the game that you're playing, but less so than the previous mention of the Gift of Alacrity asterisk that I had to put on that first entry. The entry here that I'm going to be talking about is the Durable feat, a feature that honestly I almost never see at the table, but is something that could work for every single character. What does it do? It gives you a bonus to Constitution. It's another half feat. Half feats are typically really good because you're getting a little bit of each, a feature and a ASI. The feature part of this half feat is that when you roll your hit dice to regain health during a short rest, you get a minimum health boost per die equal to twice your Constitution modifier. Meaning if you have a +2 to your Constitution, you're going to get a minimum of 4 HP for every hit dice that you use. Maybe more, but no less. You have a 3 Constitution, guess what? Or what, rather, a +3 to your Constitution, guess what? It's going to be a minimum of 6, all the way up to a minimum of 10 HP for every hit dice that you use if you have a 20 in your Constitution score. Not that I know a lot of characters that have, but just to illustrate the point a little bit further. No matter what your build is, that's going to be useful. Are you a squishy caster that is going to get even just hit once and really be fiending for some extra health? There you go. And it doesn't eat up spell slots. That very, very necessary resource to keep the game going and keep everybody in the fight. Are you the frontline fighter who is taking the majority of hits? Getting some of that health back is going to be helpful, and the more you can get back, all the better. That's what this feature allows you to do, to be more efficient regaining your health from combat to combat. The reason it's a little dependent on the game you're going to be playing is it depends on short rest. And as we know across the board, short rests are not universal from game to game. It is one of the main things that you will find is different from each table that you sit at. You might take a whole bunch of them. Your DM may allow you to inadvertently, he might not be banning them, but might pressure you to a point where you're not really able to take a short rest. And in that sense, it might not even be table to table. It might be session to session. So mileage will vary. Although every character can certainly use it, the efficiency of it's going to depend on the game that you're playing in. But our next inclusion does not suffer the same fate. Lucky is good in every game, for every character, up and down the board, ubiquitously. What does it do? It gives you 3 things known as luck points. What do the luck points do? Well, doesn't take a giant jump to figure it out. It gives you advantage on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, or you can impose disadvantage just because you want to on someone who is making an attack roll against you. Don't really have a lot to add here. It's pretty clear to see you are just taking over the game and saying, I'd rather that not happen, or hey, I would really like this to happen, so let's try again. Yeah, that's good for everybody, in every situation, all the time. 5 stars. And then we move on to some that are a little bit more, to me, entertaining and interesting. I'd like to bring up the alert feat. This isn't a feature that is pushed to the wayside, but it's not one that I think every character considers, and you really should. You really should, because it helps all the time. It helps you not be surprised. It helps keep you on your toes, and it helps make sure that you can get the jump on your opponents rather than they getting the jump on you. It starts off by giving you a +5 to your initiative. That's good. If you can go first, I can tell you there's a lot of combats that are decided by initiative. So the faster that you can get to the lineup and go, the faster you can inflict your will upon the tide of battle, meaning you have a better chance of winning the combat. Every time, initiative is king. On top of that, you can't be inflicted by the surprise condition, which is wonderful. And furthermore on that, invisible creatures cannot get the jump on you as they will not get advantage from going invisible. That doesn't mean it cancels out invisibility. It's still harder for you to hit them. But you can kind of see when things are coming, get out of the way, or prepare yourself a little bit better to cancel out that advantage that they would otherwise get on you. There's no character that this doesn't work for. I had to think of a lot of different features before selecting the final option for second to last on the list, because I already knew what the last one was going to be. And that's because I was looking at things that could fill in holes and gaps in a character's build. A lot of them only focus on certain sections of character, whether it be the more martial, if you're a spellcaster, or the more susceptible to spells, if you're a martial. And that really didn't work for all characters. And then I remembered something. The resilient feature. The resilient feature allows you to plug any hole that you have in your character when it comes to saving throws. Here's how it works. You pick a stat, any one, that you would like to choose. What initially it does is it boosts that stat by 1. That really doesn't make this a good feature by itself. You could just take the ASI and be better off. But what makes this a really good feature and a feature that can be used by anybody, thanks to the fact that you can pick any one of the 6 stats that you would like to use it for, is that it also gives you proficiency in that stat's saving throw. So are you someone who dumped dexterity and now you're succumbing to every fireball that's thrown your way? Take this and you now have a much better chance against those attacks. Also, it's something that scales over time because it's tied to your proficiency. That's only going to get better as you level up and go down the road. You start up with a +2 and you end up with a +6. And in a game of D&D 5e, those small margins of only 4 numbers, +2 to +6, are actually really, really big. Every character can benefit from Resilient because it can plug a hole of your choosing that is going to exist in any character that you find at the table. And the final, number 1 feature that works for every build, no matter what, is the Tough feat. Tough is a very simple feature, and I look at it and consider it every single time I make a character because it is always something that benefits. It may not be the best choice all of the time, but it is never the wrong choice. It's very simple. Lay it out. What does it do? Every level that you have, you get a +2 to your overall health. So if you pick this up at level 1, you start off with an extra 2 health. But on top of that, every time you level up after you take the feat, you continue to get the bonus. So take it at level 10, you instantly gain an extra 20 health. And by the time you reach level 20, you will have had an overall boost of 40 health. It's another one of those features that continues to scale and get better and grow with your character from the time you take it until the time you finish the game, meaning it will never expire on its usefulness. And when feats are not free, that is the best case scenario that we could hope and ask for. And so when I say that this feature really truly does work for every character, it really truly does. It's not too dissimilar from the durable feat. But the reason it's much better than the durable feat is it's never not relevant. Unlike durable, which requires the use of short rests, you just have tough. Tough's effect is afflicted upon your character from the word go, and it never goes away unless something reduces your max HP. But even then, it means you have more HP than you would have had you been afflicted with that particular ability and not had tough. It helps stave off that effect and makes it less potent and hurtful to your character. If you're the wizard or another spellcaster that's really squishy, easy to hit and easy to take down, you are now less easy to take down. You are in fact harder to take down. If you're someone that's taking all those hits that you want to recover from with the durable, heck, you could even couple them together. Why not stave off that HP loss from the beginning at the first place so that way you don't ever have to go down? Because avoiding going down in the first place is the number one priority of all characters. Why is that? Because if you go down, you can't help out anybody else in your party. You can't do any more damage. You can't inflict any more wounds. You can't keep concentrating on spells. You are out of the game if you go down to 0. So the longer it takes you to go down to 0, the better you are as a character. And that doesn't matter what class you play, what your backstory is, or what your background is. It will always, always work. These are just some of my favorite choices for the feats that can work for every single character in D&D 5e. What are some of your personal favorites? Did any of these stick out to you? Or were some of them ones that you hadn't really considered before? Are you going to use any in your builds in the future? Is there any feature that you always pick no matter what kind of character you're making? I'd love to hear about some of the builds you've been working on. So go ahead and let me know about them in the comments down below. And until the shop opens back up, continue working towards a better game.